right, Terry, thank you so much. It's very awesome that you're able to join us today here on Mindstock Talk. And I guess we'll dig into it, and you can start us off by just sharing a little bit about yourself as CEO of Power Nickel and the NISC project.
NISC, we acquired NISC about 3 years ago, from our friends at Critical Elements, and had a nice little resource at the time. And we've obviously, it was historical, and now we've upgraded. It's got a new 43101 out in September or December, I guess, 7.1 million tons, about 1.13% nickel. Had about a gram of PGMs in it. In the process of putting that together, we had stepped out and drilled about 5 kilometers northeast of our main deposit, a ultramafic expression at surface that we had seen, and we hit a Bonanza hole of about 8 meters of almost 1 ounce PGMs. Pretty exciting stuff. Happened at the end of the winter campaign. Bit of a marshy area, so we couldn't drill it right away. And so we got back into it in January, and the last couple of months we've been drilling it like a lot, and hitting it a lot, and it's been ridiculous, ridiculously good. So the announcement out today was just further success on that drilling, where we've defined an area of almost 300 by 200 by some thickness. 2, 5, 10 meters, you pick a number, and it's incredibly rich. Obviously we got to get the assays back and validate, but the initial ones were 1 ounce PGMs, 20 grams plus of platinum, 6 plus of palladium, and 3% copper, some gold and silver in there too. But the subsequent holes that were drilled out look visibly to be richer and bigger in thickness and stuff. So, it really is super exciting, and it was like almost a bit out of the blue, really, because obviously the nickel deposit, we're still working on that, but this sort of became a life of its own when you have something so rich near surface. At surface, basically, that's just super economic. It'd be super popular with anyone to develop it into a mine, we think. So obviously we're going to focus some energy on that.
Can you tell me one other thing, though, Terry, just for our viewers that aren't as familiar with it? Where is the property?
Basically a little bit south and east of James Bay. Our project is 8 kilometers outside the town of Nemaska. It's literally off of Route North, so you can literally drive to the site. Boom, you're right there. Across the street is a Hydro-Quebec substation. Nemaska's probably most well known for, Nemaska Lithium, but also for being the home of the Cree government. And so they're our First Nations partner. Great guys to work with. All of our drillers, when they go home tonight, they stay at a beautiful hotel that the Cree have built up there. So that's worked out really well. There's a regional airport there. As mining projects go, it's location, location, location. It doesn't get any easier. You drive to it off the road. Hydro's across the street. A town with all the facilities and supplies you need is there, and it's got a regional airport, so it's crazy. And then, of course, it's in Quebec, which is the home of 2-for-1 exploration and 2-for-1 development. So really, it's a bonanza of a location. So we've been super fortunate there.
You just mentioned the Quebec government properties in Quebec, which means the tax credit advantage that you have. Can you just give us a brief for our viewers of what that looks like?
Early January this year, we did a deal at a unit deal of 50 cents with a share and a half warrant at 50 cents, and the stock was at 23 cents. So you can see, obviously, from a stockholder's perspective, you're diluting at 50 cents. That's obviously good for the existing stockholders. And what the reason why that's able to happen is a significant number of tax credits and tax deductions available specifically for critical mineral industry in Quebec. 30% tax credit from the feds and more from the province. So as a result, the group that led the front end, in this case was, I think, WCPD. They're a professional in this area. They've done a lot of several $100 million worth of business. So they lead the issue at 50 cents, and we bring in investors at 25 cents and buy their investment back from them on day one. So the front end investor, who's basically a high tax paying Quebecer, basically sees their taxes go from 54% to 40 or something in that order of magnitude. I'm given to understand, and they're out of it. And they're happy because that was obviously reduced their taxes by 30% or so. And yet our investors that we brought to the table are able to put $1 in and $2 get to work for us. So that's the plus for the investors. So it's really a phenomenal system. I don't know of anything else like it in the world, and it certainly gives Quebec-based, particularly critical mineral companies, phenomenal competitive advantage.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about, we're reading it on your website to a degree, and that's the partnership with CVMR.
Yeah, so that's going to become a growing story for us. They're right now doing a feasibility study on NISC and been working at it for several months, and we'll expect to actually, I think in the next 10 days or so, we'll have a major report out from them, and there'll be some additional follow-up business development news as a result of that. I don't want to steal my news, but that'll be coming. And basically, here are the pluses about CVMR. CVMR, there's three ways to make nickel. You can smelt it, you can use hydrometallurgy, or you can use chemical metal vapor process. That's the process they use. It's not a new process. It's been around for 100 years. They've been working on it for the last 30 or so. They have 18 plants around the world. Their biggest client is the U.S. Department of Defense. The U.S. $100 bill, if I showed you one, it was made on a press, nickel powdered by CVMR. So you can imagine you'd have with a press you'd have to go through to get that gig. And yeah, they basically supply nickel powders. So nickel powders are an integral part of the battery system for electronic cars, but they're also used for 3D printing, for armaments, like missiles and shells. Unfortunately, there's a big business there these days, and so nickel powder is really, really growing in value. So while nickel prices have been off, and that nickel's been sort of like one of the bad boys along with lithium, I guess, over the last year and a half, it's up again this year. But I mean, while nickel is down from like highs in the 30s down to 17, 18,000, nickel powders are sold for $60,000 to $80,000 a ton. So that's the business you want to get into. And so we would never be able to get there, just as a miner, because the technical expertise to put that together is just not possible to acquire. But we were able to partner, with CVMR and first on this feasibility study. And then, all out of that, we think will prove the robust economics of developing a mine here. And then we'll end up doing that in connection with CVMR and build a refinery in Quebec or in Texas to refine the nickel into powders for sale to the EV sector, the printing sector, the defense sector, etc.
Now, this could be a little bit of a loaded question, and I'm not sure if this is something that you could really foresee at the moment, but do you think that stock market investors will react to Power Nickel's initiatives given the rising demand for critical minerals?
That's the $64,000 question. And if I actually had the answer to that, I'd be far wealthier than I am today. So so I'm not quite sure what the stock market wants these days, because we've certainly given them lots of resource, lots of great exploration results, lots of great business development results. Yet we're 3 years later, we're basically where I financed the project when I first acquired it. So well, I guess we're not down by 90% like a lot of my peers, or 60% or whatever. And so damning by faint praise, we've done okay. But I think honestly we should be. I wouldn't sell this if somebody came in tomorrow with a check for $200 million. I wouldn't sell it to them. We're worth 30 today. That seems crazy, but I think this is going to be worth $1 billion. Maybe several. And it's just insane that the market hasn't caught on. There are reasons why that has happened to Power Nickel, and it's reasons why it's happened to many other fine juniors. And we've talked about that off screen, and we know that there's certainly a regulatory problem in Canada with the way it's policed and the allowing of naked shorts and short exempt status and all sorts of just nefarious, regulatory, approaches that enable bad guys to do bad things to good companies.
The 43101 report, you recently updated it, and now you're waiting for assay results, right?
Yeah, so we've got some assay results. We expect to have, like, today's announcement was more on like defining, the area that we're working in and how big it is, which is sort of the big news to say, hey, we've got this really, rich, chalcopyrite filled zone that's already shown that's got Bonanza like material and 8 meters of 1 ounce PGMs. And it looks like it gets as good or better going, east, west, and south, which is all directions. But of course, the assays will tell the truth. As they say, the assays never lie, right? So you get the assays, and then. So we expect that we'd be delivering that probably in the next 10 days to 2 weeks, based upon the sequence of we know they're being processed now. So once they're in processing, they're usually within 3 weeks, and they've been in processing for about a week. So I would expect sometime in the next 10 days, 2 weeks, we'll get those out, and then the truth will be known. But as I said, it looked to us from the XRF machines and from the visible sightings of the chalcopyrite, in the samples relative to the discovery hole, that it looks like it's thicker. So we're getting more material. So fingers crossed, we deliver similar goods, and this will be a really significant addition to the power nickel story.
Very good. So, question that kind of goes with something you mentioned earlier. And as investors, we, of course, care about ESG. You mentioned you work well with the indigenous partners you have up in the area. We also were noticing that you mentioned carbon credit possibilities given the property. What does that look like?
Yeah, so we filed our ESG report. It's on our site. I think we're one of the few juniors that have done that. We think it's I think most Canadian miners are actually very good that way, and we've certainly made a commitment. And Canadians, we export this worldwide. So miners in Canada are probably amongst the most environmentally friendly businesses out there, and we get a bad brush. I think it's unfair because I think miners do an exceptional job of working with the environment, and most miners are outdoors people and love the environment and certainly want to respect it. So we feel we've done that. What we're doing on the carbon credit side, a couple major initiatives. We work with Carbon X. They're a really great carbon credit provider. They're very reasonable. They have a program, on mining specifics. So we generally at this point, the only carbon that we're generating would be the diesel we use for drilling. So each year we figure out what that number is. It's based on a per meter thing, as you would expect. So we know exactly how much diesel we're using, and then we offset that carbon through Carbon X. So we're carbon neutral right now, and we'll be going forward. And then as we look forward to developing the mine, obviously we're blessed by being across the road from Hydro-Quebec, so would wherever possible make this an electric mine, to the extent that we can do that. And probably these days, somewhere between 80 and 90% of the mine can be done that way, cost effectively. And then the other thing that's a big plus for us on the environmental side of things is that we have ultramafic rock. So ultramafic rock naturally sequesters CO2, and if you hit it with oxygen before it goes out on the tailing, it triples the. So what happens is that naturally when the rock goes out, it sucks CO2 out of the atmosphere, turns it into calcite, and it's like a stone. It never comes out. So all those things are plus. And then ultimately, we think that we'll probably put a recycling facility at our mine, so that because it's quite cost effective to do so in the initial design stages, is that we could take batteries back, full batteries, and break them down into constituent parts, both iron phosphate and lithium iron and NMC and NMA. And basically break them in their constituent parts, including the housings, because CVMR has got that technology. So we could build that in, and that would put us pretty much cradle to grave. So we would actually, at that point, be probably negative. Like we'd be the only negative, I think, nickel mine in the world. In other words, we'd actually, be saving the CO2 versus producing it. So yeah, it's and we think it's going to be cost effective to do so. That we'll actually get paid more. I think people. It's interesting. You'll see lots of negative headlines on nickel, a little less so these days. But there was a while back there were a bunch of Australian high cost places were being shut down, and New Caledonia. But then, generally speaking, these were also dirty ones, and so there was expensive that way, and you see Samsung make an investment in Canada Nickel of I think it was close to 20 million US, plus another commitment to spend 110 million into the joint venture for 10%, and then also to buy the offtake. They could buy cheaper nickel from Indonesia. They choose not to do so because if you want to be IRA compliant and supply batteries so that your clients can actually get tax credits for their vehicles purchase, got to be in North America. So nickel is very much a regional market. So if you got North American nickel under the IRA laws, you really got a significant asset. Most people haven't clued in on that, but at some point that penny will drop. That's we're blessed in that we have like high grade nickel sulfide, so that's even better still. But in any event, having North American nickel is clearly a huge plus.
Nice. So that, I guess you would call nearshoring if the companies start buying nickel locally instead of Indonesia.
Yeah, and not throwing the Indonesians under the bus. We were at a conference in Korea. I was there just a few weeks ago on some other business development issues, but about a year ago we were there for a conference, and I was able to get and have dinner with the Indonesian senior officials there, and I had spent some time in Indonesia, so I knew a little Bahasa and could speak to them a little bit, and they're not trying to poison the environment. I'm sure they respect the environment in many ways as much as we do. The problem is they're in a tropical rainforest. Laterite mines are all at surface, and they got no place to put their tailings. And rain comes, and you got a tailing problem. And it's like, it doesn't matter how much you want to be an environmentalist. In that particular part of the world, it's going to be all but impossible to do this in a clean way. So that's going to be always, unfortunately, dirty nickel. And I think, if we're doing all this greening to actually save the environment, one can't see a big, bright future for that. I mean, it's got to be a problem. It's got to be managed for sure. And so I think, clean nickel, clean green Quebec nickel is going to be highly valuable, I think. And we certainly see that playing out.
Back on the stock, will you do another raise?
When you're successful and you're drilling, you're spending money, and we're not a cash flow business, as you know, at this point. So we'll always be in the process of raising money, less or more. We've been using it, obviously, the 2-for-1 stuffs as much as we can, but there'll be other equity dilutions in the future. But when you go from 3.1 million historic resource to 7.2, and then you're going from basically negligible PGMs to a few 100,000 to possibly 1 million plus now, plus more, we're creating a ton of value. So I think as a productive mining strategy is to always create value with the money you raise. You got to create more value so that after the raise, and whatever you've done with the money made you more valuable than you were before the raise. And I think we're very much at that. And I think, honestly, I've told people this. I said this at Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, said this at PDAC. I'll say it now. If you're looking at junior mining, you should get off half your wallet now. And the reason why I say this is that basically the best move in investment is when you go from bad to less bad. Okay, it's a bad market. Okay, it's a bad market for power nickel. It's a bad market for almost everyone, but it's going to go to less bad here pretty quick. And the reason why is, as like Rick Rule said, the cure for low prices is low prices. So what's happened here is we've gotten so desperate that now we've looked at all this bogus regulatory BS that's been allowed to happen, and now we know the facts. And organizations like Save Canadian Mining are going to make it very clear to the public that vote these guys in, that allow these regulators to live, about how nefarious this is. And they're going to, and it will get stopped because it's such a black and white theft, is all you can call it, that it has to be stopped. And I believe that'll happen sooner than we think. And then I also think that we've also got new tools to deal with these guys. Like, for example, Power Nickel is spinning out its copper gold subsidiary, which used to trade at this market cap level before our nickel and PGM discoveries. Okay. So that's basically worth zero theoretically right now, but we're spinning out, but we're going to keep it private. We're going to keep it private for a period of time. And why are we doing that? Because basically, in this regulatory system, if you dividended out another public company, they would be able to paper over their short positions. In a private company, they can't do that because Power Nickel's the group that decides who gets the paper. If you don't have a DRS, you're not going to get this next new certificate. So that's going to freeze these guys. So there's certain things we can do. And it's just like we prove to the regulators, people would say, well, Terry, you're just a conspiracy theorist. This is like, your stock is down because everyone hates junior mining or some other bogus, euphemism like that. And I say, no, I've actually done the homework. I paid the money. I've got the data. I filed a formal complaint with Ciro and FINRA to prove that, in fact, there's at least 10 million shares short at Power Nickel and probably much more, like several times more. And ultimately, we will trap these guys. Okay. Now, I don't say to anybody you should buy this because it's a short squeeze. You should buy it because it's a tremendous nickel asset, and now it's a tremendous platinum asset. Okay. We're going to have PGMs, serious PGMs. So this thing is going to be worth a ton of money, in my view. And that's why you should buy it. And along the way, you're going to get a short squeeze, and that'll give you a nice kicker. That's not why you buy it, but that's what's going to happen.
Right. The principal asset's the main play. I think the shorts will hide at some point. They'll run and try to buy the stock.
Yeah, no, they'll try and cover, but they'll find on these small deals like Power Nickel that, especially where you got I think there's 5 of us that own 50% of the company. So we're not about dilution because we've put a ton of money into it and a ton of time, and we bought all of our stock. None of us got any gifted stock. So we're very we throw shares around like manhole covers. It's important to us, and so we won't be like, I've had people come and offer us bought deals, but it's like, no, because I know who you're buying it for. And those guys are going to have to pay off.
We're going to be paying close attention to see how it all plays out.
I think it's a great opportunity for new investors to look at it, see a long-term play that has a really good product in behind it and good management.
I mean, it's just super exciting. I mean, every day when we're drilling, it's like we're drilling again today in that same area, and it's like more joy. So it's like, it's just like, it doesn't usually happen like this because, trust me, I've been in mining long enough to have had a lot of dry holes. So unfortunately, it's not always like that. But when you get one that's cooperating, my God, it's unbelievable. So at some point, and we think in the next, honestly, I think we've bottomed out here, and I think the stocks we've been trading in this band. So you know how it goes in bands. When they rip, they rip. So I think we're going to have a rep, and I can't predict when. You were asking, I said if I could, I'd be super wealthy, but I'm not. But I do believe that this thing is going to, just fundamentally, it's got to go a lot higher.
Seeking the inside track on Power Nickel? Look no further than minestalkers.com. Our cutting-edge search tool is not only designed to reveal hidden gems, but also provides real-time stock updates. Visit for the insights and stay for the gains. Seize the opportunity and explore the magic at minestalkers.com. Uncover new investment possibilities today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Let's get the word out there.